Hello everyone, welcome back. In previous lecture, we have created Spring Security custom configuration, right? And also we have seen how we can restrict specific URIs to end user. We can give authenticate access to specific URIs, and we can give permit all access to specific URIs, and we can give deny all to specific URIs. So what are all the URIs you want to restrict? Depends on the request matches. You can define whether you want to authenticate this particular URI, then you can use authenticated along with the URIs which you want to authenticate. Similarly, in second step, so in request matcher, so which are all the URIs you want to permit all without authentication, so then you can use permit all. And third one, so which are all the URIs they can authenticate but they cannot access it, so denying all. So when the specific user using save user method, so he cannot access, he can authenticate but he cannot access the save user API. So I hope you guys are understood. So in this lecture we are going to enhance this code with Spring Security 6.1. Okay, so if you see here, these methods are already deprecated. If you read this message, so the method authorize HTTP request from the type HTTP request HTTP security has been deprecated. Deprecated nothing but, so this method no longer available in future version of Spring Security. No longer is going to use this method, this type of method. So in a spring security latest version of 6.1 onwards, they are introduced lambda expressions along with authorized HTTP requests. So we can use lambda expression. They are optimized the code. So here we have to write 1 2 3 line of code, and instead of that they have introduced a lambda expressions for authorized HTTP requests. So now let's enhance this code with Spring Security 6.1 onwards. So let me commenting it out. Now again use same HTTP security dot authorize, as I told you. So when user entering credentials and all, so we have to authorize those requests, right? Authenticate those requests. So for that, this is the method authorize request, same request, the request which is already outdated. So here now instead of dot request to matchers, what we'll do, it has the lambda expression. So you can see here authorize, just authorize. To make you clear understanding, let me click enter, and let me write here, there is a authorize. You can take any object, so authorize, and then lambda expression. So sorry, type mistake. Just do authorize lambda expression, and then authorize dot. So you can see there is a any request method. So any request method dot, as of now let's give authenticated, all the requests authenticated. So after that, then what you have to do, dot, there is next, what you have to do, once all the each and every request is authenticated, and then we have to tell Spring Security to which type of authentication we are going to perform. So since we are using web application, we have to perform form login. So that's the reason. So then dot form login, you just need to call. So after that, then so we can attach as many number of custom configurations that will explain you later. So as of now, let it be like this. So now see, if you see it here, form login also outdated. So form login method also outdated. So they are introduced customize dot customize customizer dot with defaults. With defaults in the sense, whenever you start the application, By default it will provide form login authentication. So customizer dot with defaults. So let me save this, and then so it will have, I think, I hope it will have build method also. See, directly build method. So you can call the build method as well. So now we can return this directly. So this is not at all needed. So this is how we can write. We can write with the lambda expressions. We can customize all the authorized requests. So here this method should return the value, right? That's it. So this is how we can write in from 6 dot string security 6.1 onwards. So I hope you guys are clearly understood, right? So now let me start the application. Control Shift O to remove unnecessary imports. And now let me start the server. So for the time being, I have given all the requests. So authorized dot any request dot authenticated, nothing but which are all the requests come to our web application. So all the requests will be must authenticated. All the requests must authenticated, nothing but you should enter username and password. Other than, if you don't enter username and password, so you cannot authenticate all the APIs which are defined in our web application. So now let me start the server. Very easy, guys, very simple. So what you have to do, http request dot authorize http request and open bracket and close bracket. So after that you have to declare an object with lambda expression, and then authorize object is having same whatever logic we have written earlier class, right? So who are all watching newly, you can watch previous video to make you understand easily. Okay, so authorize dot any request dot authenticated. Here I am giving all the requests should authenticated if any user wanted to access, right? So let me start the server. Yeah, server started successfully. You can see Tomcat started, port number 8080. So now still it's going on. Why, what is saying? So we got some exception, I think. Server not started successfully. Let's see the error. So okay, it is saying 8080 already in use. So by mistake I clicked on start button again. So what we have, how we can resolve that issue? So just Control Alt to delete and go to task manager and go to details section and type processes Java. So just kill that process, end that process. That's it. So now let me start the server again. Yeah, server started successfully. So now let me open the browser and we can access our localhost localhost colon 8080. Click enter. See any API or any your default page. So here in our user controller, what we have given, so what is the default page? User registration page. So default page will be user registration page slash nothing but default page will be displayed. So this is the one. So the moment I entered localhost colon 8080, I without login I just click enter. So it is prompting us to login page. Spring Security provided login page. So default login page which is provided by Spring Security. So what are all the credentials? So if you check here application dot properties, so here we have created static credentials, right, in previous lecture. So these are all the credentials we have to use to log in. So Java Cafeteria is the username and test is the password. Then click on sign in button. So now we are able to successfully authenticated. How we can log out? So Spring Security also provides logout feature, right? Logout. So logout feature. So click on logout URL and then you can directly click on logout button. So you can successfully log out, right? So Spring Security is providing by default login page as well as logout page. So login page you can access slash login and logout page you can access slash logout. Okay, so now let me go to the, let me try another URLs. You can see if you go to Spring Security customer security configuration class. So let me any request, right? Any request, if you want to access any URL in your web application, as of now all APIs will be by default secured. Why? Because we have given any request dot authenticated. By default all, what is the meaning of the statement? By default all the requests will be by default secure. So now let me try, is there any other URL? So we have created some sample URLs also, right? Sample API. So let me try this one, test API 1. Go to test API 1 and try to log in test API and click on enter. See, it is also prompting to login page. So earlier we have created test API 3, 4 also. Test API 3 we have restricted earlier. So now without authentication, this test API 3 also we cannot access. Let's try that as well. Test API 3, click enter. Still it is prompting us default login page. Without authentication you cannot log into your web application, right? So now let me uh, use request matchers. So same like earlier code what we have written, we will write with Spring Security 6.1 onwards. Okay, so now same nothing, there is no difference. What you have to do, you just need to remove any request. Instead of that, so there is a request matcher, same method. Only difference is here we are using lambda expressions and in here we are using without lambda expressions. That is the only difference. Remaining all the concepts are same. So now here you can provide list of URL. So let me copy paste whatever we have given here earlier and paste it here. Sorry, copy properly. That's it, authenticated. So now you have doubt now, sir, this one we have declared with a separate statement. So how we can do it here? So what you can do? So click enter and instead of authenticated, you can follow same request dispatch. Let me provide you proper way so that you can easily understand. So here dot request matches, again one more request matches you can use. Let's try request request. Why it's not showing? So remember me. Okay, it is so not here. So we'll do one thing. So once you log in it here, that is the right. My laptop is stuck. Now we'll see now. So here we have created request matchers, test API 1 and test API 2 both are authenticated, right? So after authenticated, so again you can type request matchers, another request matcher you can define which are all you don't want to authenticate. So let me copy these URIs and paste it here. Very easy, guys. So now here you have to give dot permit all. I want to permit all. So test API 3 and test API 4 without authentication I wanted to access. So these two APIs with authentication and these two APIs will be without authentication. So let's try this now. Similarly, if you want, you can deny all APIs also. So let me deny test API 4. So remove from here and I will deny test API 4 request. Sorry, not here. So after permit all. dot request matches and paste it. Test API 4. Yeah, I copied wrongly. Okay, let me copy properly. So test API 4, just copy and paste it. So this is how we can enhance with the Spring Security 6.1 version onwards. So we are using Lambda expressions with authorized HTTP requests. Okay guys. So now let me test now. It will work same as it is. Let me stop the server and clear the console. So request matches dot. So we have to deny, right? So we have to follow whether here for this request matcher we have given authenticated, and this URI we have given permit all, and for this URI for test 4 API we thought of give deny all, right? So let me give deny all. That's it. So now let me start the server. Very easy guys. If you understand the concept you can write very easy. So you just need to understand, first we have to authorize the request. After authorize the request you can give which are all the API you want to restrict, which are all the API you want to permit, which are all the API you want to deny. So you can decide based on your requirement. So now let me server started successfully, right? So let me go to the browser, and now as per this code we'll execute, we'll check, we'll test it one by one. So here test API 1 and test API 2 will be with authentication, right? Authentic, these two APIs should be authenticated. Let me copy the URI and go to the browser and just test API 1, click enter. It is prompting us to login page. And similarly test API 2, we'll try test API 2 as well. You can open new browser also, you can try guys. Enter. It is prompting to login page. So as expected these two APIs are expecting authentication. And this one, so this API doesn't need any authentication because permit all, we have given permit all. So what are all the APIs which you declare with request matchers, if you access with permit all, then this will not expect authentication. Directly we can access test API 3. Just go to the browser and type test API 3, click enter. See, without authentication, the test API 3 without authentication, because we have declared test API authentication with permit all. Similarly, test API 4, test API 4 we are denying all, right? So we are denying test API 4. Let me try test API 4. Click enter. Since test API 4 is expecting authentication, let me try Java Cafeteria and test. What is the expected output? So deny all. So when you are trying to use this test API 4, it should deny. We should not access test API 4. We should not accept nothing but if test API 4, this API should not return this message. It should return unauthorized. So right. So now let me access denied, something like that. Now sign in. See test API 4. Test API 4 executed. Access to localhost was denied. Forbidden 403, nothing but forbidden. Access to localhost, nothing but access to this test API 4 URI we are restricted, sorry, denied. So all the code is working as expected. So till here you guys are understood, right? This is how we can upgrade with the 6.1 Spring Security 6.1 latest version. Okay, so now let me log in. Let me discuss another concept. Let me authenticate first test API 1. So okay, we'll see later. So now what we'll do, so in application.properties we have configured only one user, right? In application.properties we have configured only one user. Let me open again, by mistake I have closed it. So application.properties we have configured only one static credentials. But now I have a requirement called I want to configure multiple users by using Spring custom security configuration. So how I can do that? So let me try now. So there is a way we can configure static credentials with multiple users by using Spring custom security configuration. So I hope you guys are understood, right? So here we have only one static credentials. I don't want to use always one user. So I want to create multiple users for Spring security configuration. So multiple users, how we can configure? So let's go to our custom security configuration dot java. So here, so if you open uh, Spring security architecture, let me open Spring security architecture. So if you open Spring Security Architecture, so you can see, so authentication provider. So there is a what authentication provider will do. So by using user detail service, it will validate the user credentials and password, right? Password will be recognized with the help of password encoder, and user information, username will be identified with user detail service. So now we have to implement user detail service. So Spring Boot is having uh, in memory user details manager. So default in memory user details managers. Now we are going to store multiple users static credentials with Spring Boot in memory details manager. So let me create multiple users for our web application. So how we can do that? So as part of the diagram, so authentication provider is having user details and password encoder. So by using user detail service, we can configure multiple users with the help of in-memory user details manager. So now let me create it. So once we add that, these credentials will not work now. So now go to user details configuration and user details service. So user details service will have user details service method. We'll create our own user defined user details service method, and as of now I will give void. So if you understand this diagram, you can write the code by your own, guys. Okay, so now we are going to implement user in memory user detail service, so to create multiple static user details. So now multiple users we are going to create. So now we have a predefined class. So you can see user dot. So user is having, there is a Spring security provided user class is available. User dot with username. You can see there is a method called user dot with username. So then here we can give let me give Sachin Tendulkar, Sachin, and dot, there is a another method called password. Let me write in uh, below so that you can easily understand. User dot and then dot password. So I will give password as a Sachin and test at 123, or give both Sachin at 123 so that you can understand easily. Sachin is the username and Sachin at 123 is the password. So let me write directly as of now. So later I will get it down so people can understand easily. So user dot, so this user is available in this user class we haven't created. You can see here. So there is a Spring framework provided security.core.user details package is having user. So this is the class I am using, Spring inbuilt user. Okay, so now it has a static method called with username, and next there is another method followed by password. So now password dot, so next just build it. So now click on build, so it will return user details. So let me return user details. So one user I have created. It will return user is. How do you know what it will return? Just put cursor and build, directly go to the build. Let me remove as of now this one. So there is a build method, right? Dot build method. It will return user details. So this user details we have to return. So user one, let me give user1. So import it, control shift O, organize the import. So this user details with it is having security package, spring framework dot security dot core dot user details package. So one user I have created. Similarly you can create as many number of users. Two, and let me stop the server here, otherwise it will keep on disturbing me. So now 2 and 3. So let me create three users, user 2 and user 3. So static credentials guys. So here Sachin Rohit Sharma, Rohit and Rohit at 123, Rohit Sharma. Okay, Rohit at 123. So now here user 3 I will give Virat Kohli, Virat and Virat at 123. So three users we have created. So I told you, right? So from where we will store these credentials? So we have to store these credentials, right? So as of now, so we have Spring in-memory user details manager. So as part of the diagram, so user details service. So Spring Boot is providing in-memory user details manager. That is the default in Spring Boot in-memory actually. So Spring Boot's in-memory we are going to store uh, static credentials, multiple static credentials. So let me create in-memory user details manager. So new. So let me in-memory user details manager. So user details manager is equal new in-memory user details manager. Security is having some problem, it is not see. Now you can see. So in memory use a control space, if you do it will show automatically in memory user details manager. So as part of the in memory user details manager we can pass as many number of users. So user 1 Sachin Tendulkar, right? And next user 2 Rohit Sharma, Rohit, and user 3, that's it. So like this as many number of static users we can create it. So but make sure guys, this code is uh, hard coding the credentials is not good for health. In a production environment we should not write code like this. We have to fetch the username details from the database. So in previous lecture we already created users and roles, rights. So later I will create, later we are going to fetch user information from the database, that I will explain you in coming lectures. Okay. So we'll go step by step. So here I am showing you how we can create multiple static users with the help of custom security configuration. So now, so this user details. So now this method should return user details manager. So now instead of return, now return user details manager. So just return this user details manager. That's it. User details service or manager. TURM. So now this method, earlier I have created a void type, right? So now we have to return in memory user details manager. That's it. Very easy guys. So now, so we have to declare it as a bin. So in-memory user details manager will be initialized during the runtime. So now we have to declare it as a bin. Otherwise, this bin is not going to initialize during the runtime. So at the rate bin. So now that's it, guys. Very easy. You just need to understand, okay? So this code is not going to write in production, guys. This is just to make you understand how to configure multiple static users in custom security configuration. Nothing but custom security configuration class. So this some people may think like this is the class name only we have to give. No, I have given custom security configuration. Depends on requirement. You can give. Some people may write authentication configuration or my web application configuration, my security configuration. So like that you can name it, depends on your requirement. Okay, so not like always custom security configuration. Some people may by heart the code, always they will write custom security configuration. So not like that. So class name can be anything, only you should understand how we can create custom spring security configuration class. Okay, so instead of returning this is we are not using anywhere, right? So simply are returning. So I don't want to do that. So unnecessarily variable creation, so not needed. What we can do, remove this here, directly we can return since we are not using anywhere, right? So now this we can remove directly. That's it. Now let me start the server. Now we are going to log in with Sachin and Rohit and Virat. Let me start the server. Yeah, server started success. By mistake I started server earlier, server already in starting mode, guys. So no problem. So what we can do, so see port 8080 was already so many people, they will directly change the port number here. Application.property, if you change the port number, then they will start the server again. Instead of that, kill the existing process. So what you can do, why this error is came, so earlier already server is in started mode, again I have tried to start the server. That's the reason it is saying already Stormcast server is running mode. So 80 was already in use. So what we can do, we just need to kill the process. How we can kill? Control Alt to delete and go to task manager and select a details tab and select any Java instance. So type J letter. So right hand side you can type anywhere you can type. Just type J letter so that you can see. So this will be your Intel, your Eclipse. So no, I don't want to close that. So close only Java instance. Just end the process. And this one also you can end it. That's it. Now close it. Now clear the console and let me start the server again. Whenever you are getting exception, you should feel very happy, guys. Don't get panic. You have to read the error and you have to identify the issue. This is how you people have to learn. So now go to browser and what I will do, so let me access any one of the URL. So let me come down. What is the URL? Let me try authenticated. So these two API should be authenticated, right? Let me try to authenticate test API 1 and go to the what is the credentials. Let me check credentials. I will use Sachin and Sachin at 123 credentials. Go to the browser and paste it here. Test API 1, click enter. Now I will try to log in with, let me try Java Cafeteria, which is there in application.property. You will see what will happen. Java. So earlier we have created static credential in application.properties, right? Now these credentials should not work. So why? Because we are directly configured in custom configuration with three users. Only these three users only can authenticate. So now application properties, even if you return this, these credentials will not work. Let me show you now. Java Cafeteria and type test, click on sign in button. See, it is saying bad credentials. Why? Because now we have created our custom security configuration with the default three users, three static users. So Sachin, Rohit and Virat. So let me log in with Sachin credentials. Sachin and password will be Sachin at 123, all small letters. Click on sign in button. If you check it here, why it's not logging in? So let me go to the uh, whenever you are getting exception, you should read the error properly. if you check it here, it is saying, yeah, there is no password encoder mapped. So in Spring Security custom configuration, when we use user detail service, whenever we are using user detail service or in-memory user detail service manager, we must encode the password. So otherwise, Spring Security will not recognize the password of any one of the user. So we must encode the password if we are using user detail service. Remember guys, make it note. If we are using user detail service, if you configured username and password, your password must encoded format. If password is not encoded format, so encoded format nothing but, so earlier see this is the raw text, right? So in Spring Security context, it will expect encrypted mode. So otherwise, it will not allow encrypted in the sense, for security reasons in production environment or in real-time environment in database, we should not use raw passwords. Raw password in the sense, so anyone can open the table, they can read the password. So that password should be encrypted. So we have to encrypt the password, otherwise everybody will, this password will be visible to everyone in database, right, generally. So that is the reason, even if we write static passwords internally, Spring Security will encrypt this password and it will store it into in memory, Spring Boot in memory details manager. Okay, so let me encode the password. How we can encode the password? There are different, by using default encoder, there are different types of encoder Spring Security. So as of now, we'll use default password encoder. So how we can do that? So let me show you. So there is a user. So here user dot, you have a method called default password encoder. So why we are using, so while we are discussing about Spring Security architecture, authentication provider will always validate the user with the help of user detail service and password encoder. So without these two, authentication provider cannot validate the user credentials internally, right? So we have to use these two. So user detail service we already used. So we have user details we have used with username and credential. But the password should be encoded. This password must be encoded. So let me use as of now default password encoder. So default password encoder dot. So let me remove as of now default password encoder dot. So it is showing this method default encode password and argument type of string. So you can see user is not applicable for the argument 0. So now default password encoder dot, and then there is a username method. You can see there is a username method. So what you can do, default encoder password dot username. Sometimes I also forgot the exact method name. So what you have to do, just control space dot control space, you can see available method. So we have a username, similarly dot password. So earlier if you without default encoder method, we used to use with username. So you have to remember that guys, you no need to remember, just control space user, then you will get to know everything. So control Z with default and password encoder dot username Sachin, and password will be Sachin8123. What will happen in that case? So this case password will be encoded internally in Spring Boot in memory details manager. Okay, so this is also outdated. Later I will show you how we can enhance this password encoder. So this method is going to no longer available. This is deprecated. So I will explain you later, so how we can improve this code without deprecated methods. Okay, so let me use as of now with the default password encoder. So same thing we have to do it for other users also, otherwise it won't work. So let me use for other users also with now this will not have username, this will have only username, small username and password. Similarly let me copy for another user dot username. That's it. So now sometimes changes will not affect. What you will do, let me stop the server and let me start the server now. So currently we are storing static credentials in Spring Boot in memory details manager. Now go to the browser and try to access test API. I want to access. Just go down and which are all the APIs we are authenticated. These two APIs, right? Go down. So these two APIs. So test API 1 I want to authenticate with static credentials which we have configured here. So Sachin is the password and Sachin at 123 is the password. Sorry, Sachin is the user name and Sachin at 123 is the password. So let me try user 1. Let me access the URL here. I am trying to access test API 1. So it is directly prompted to login page. So here I will use Sachin and Sachin at 123. Now login. See, now we are able to successfully authenticate test API 1 authenticated. Test API 1 accessed with authentication. So now I hope you guys are understood, right? So whenever we are using static credentials or if you are using user details service, you must encode the password. Otherwise Spring Security will not recognize the password. Whenever we are using user details service bean, so whenever we are using detail service bean, then we must encode the password. Otherwise we cannot authenticate. You have to remember, guys, if you understand the Spring Security internal flow, user detail service password encoder, if you remember this diagram and if you remember this workflow, you can easily write the code without by adding the code, right? You just need to understand the concept now. So I can directly write this code, but I want you to make you understand step by step. First I haven't written this one. I already know without encode password it won't work, but I have to make you understand. You should not by heart the code, you have to go step by step. I directly used username one password, then I started the server. You got to know, okay, without using encoding the password, we cannot authenticate in Spring Security if we use user detail service. Okay. Similarly, let me log out now. So let me try Rohit Sharma. Rohit at 123. Let me log out Sachin. How we can log out? Log out you and then click on log out button. So Sachin is logged out successfully. Let me try Virat and Virat at 123 is the password. So Virat also able to see Virat is access to local was denied. Why? So Virat, so because see Virat Kohli we have given authentication. Let me go it here. So I am trying to use which API we are trying to use. Let me check which API we have used. So here test API 4 is denied. So permit all test API 3. So let me try test API 1 only. So test API 1 which you should access without should not deny. Let me try test API 1. Also it's already authenticated. You can see test API 1 can be authenticated. So now let me log out Virat Kohli as well. Log out, enter and log out. Let me try to log in again Virat. Test API again Virat in the sense not Virat, so you have to use the API test API 1 we are going to access. You may make sure you guys are using which API whatever we have configured here. You should understand test API 1 test API 2 is authenticated and test API 3 and test API 3 will be permit all, so without authentication test API 4 will be denied. So you have to make sure understand, guys, don't get confused. So whatever code you have written you have to understand and code it. So test API 3, so test API 3 without authentication, test API 3 without authentication. So now test API 2 I want to try. So test API 2, so test API 2 will be with authenticated. So with authentication, so now enter. So it will prompt to you use enter username and password. So I will use Rohit Sharma. So let me use Rohit Sharma, Rohit or Virat, anyone you can use. Rohit and Rohit at 123. Click on sign in button. Yeah, test API 2 with authentication. So this is how remaining you can try your with your practice. Okay, you can write your custom username as many number of users you can create, and those static credentials you can store it into in memory user details manager, Spring Boot in memory user details manager. So very easy guys. Okay, so in next lecture I will explain you another new concept. We'll go step by step guys. Make sure you guys are practicing every day guys. Okay, so don't by heart the code, understand the concept and then write the code. So see, some people see by understanding the concept is different, learning concept is different. Learning, some people by heart the code, completely by heart the code, remember the code. Don't remember, understand the concept and then write the code. Okay, thank you guys. Guys, I think people are watching, but your people are not liking the videos. If you people are really like the videos, if you really understood the concept, please subscribe and like the videos as well. Okay, thank you so much guys. And who are all watching newly, you can subscribe Java Cafeteria channel, and you can uh, watch all the videos Spring Boot and AngularJS microservices on rest all other concepts. Okay, so thank you guys.